Brother Dave had hit me up and brought something to my attention. I guess there's an issue that's going around that has been going around for a long time. You got a lot of people out there that think just because we have the New Testament, the New Covenant, that there is no Old. Let me make something very, 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 very clear. You cannot have a new without the old. And the new doesn't get rid of the old. It fulfills the old and brings in the Gentiles. So where the old was only meant for a nation of rested people, the new covenant technically is giving the Gentiles a chance to do during the transgression of these people, all right, to fulfill the laws and the rules by being brought in to the old covenant. So it doesn't get rid of the old at all. It technically gives the Gentiles and everybody else a chance to be a part of this old covenant, making it a new covenant. And then you cannot have a new covenant until everything is fulfilled that is in the start of a new covenant. So until everything is fulfilled, we are brought in. Actually and technically, yes, we are in a new covenant, but the new covenant hasn't been fully fulfilled. And the true covenant is the coming in the fulfillment of an eternal life when Christ comes. So how does the old just disappear like that? When you should know, if you're in the new covenant and you're trying to denounce the old, you should know the scriptures from front to back, from Matthew all the way to Revelations. And I could swear up and down that Yeshua and the disciples said that you cannot have grace without works. You can't have the old without the new. And he did not come to get rid of any of what the prophets had said, stood for, or have done, or any of the laws that stand within the laws of Moses, which was passed down to him, written and given to him by Yahweh, the one true God Most High. He stated, Yeshua the Messiah stated that he came to fulfill the laws, not to get rid of them. So I'm trying to get a good understanding of where this is coming from. I can sit up here and talk about the laws, the rules, and everything else, and it's really amazing of how the truth only attracts a little bit of bees to the honey. But then you got somebody over here telling you that the Old Testament does not confide, does not stand, has nothing to do with us. And you got a whole bunch of bees flying over here. Or shall I say flies? A whole bunch of flies flying over to vinegar. Thought I was going to say, you know, the SH word, didn't you? Want to, but I didn't. So, instead of having a whole bunch of flies on some vinegar, we should concentrate. We should concentrate more on fulfilling the Old Testament, living by the Old Testament, and being in a new covenant of a grafted tree. Because the new covenant was the fulfillment of bringing the Gentiles into the word, into the understanding. You see, anytime somebody kicks a whole bunch of rhetoric like that and they got something to say, it's usually because they done woken up to the truth, but they still carry that little root and that seed of bitterness. So then they go, oh, okay, this has to do with those Semitic black people. And then they'll look around them, and this is how Satan works. They'll look around them, and then they'll either have a problem, an issue, or a situation at that time, moment, week, or whatever with a black person, because it's not all blacks. You understand? It's really, really not all blacks. All right? So they'll have a problem with a black person, and the first thing that they'll do It's go, oh no, and then they'll get that seed of hatred will just grow roots, and then it will sprout little leaves of hatred, and then after it does that, they start denouncing the things that they actually need to get into heaven. Because you cannot sit down and think for 1 minute that the Old Testament does not exist. You can't think for 1 minute that you can fashion the rules and the laws to your liking, to your characteristics, to make your emotions feel better. Let me tell you, if you want to make your emotions feel better, go to your mama. Tell her to put a diaper on you, put a bottle in your mouth and burp you. Because this ain't the time for nobody to be sitting down here holding your little hand, walking you across the street because you can't look both ways. Because Satan's all around. And this ain't no angle. This is a well-rounded thing, a grafted olive tree bearing fruit for the Most High. If you can't get your behind right, walk right in the path of righteousness to be grafted in, guess what? You ain't never, ever, ever gonna get that reward, that promise, and that fulfillment. Do not think for 1 second that the old laws do not exist. Do not think for a second just because you're sitting down going, oh, Jesus Christ and your healing, or you shout Yeshua the Messiah, and all these beautiful things in Lord, Lord, Lord's names, that it will get you into heaven. Because every increment, every little thing that you do, just like Sting was saying, every little step that you take, every little breath that you make, the Lord is watching you. And I just came up with that. That was a Police song. Yeah! So I'm in a good mood today. So with that being said, please do not ever think that the old laws, that you cannot ever have a new covenant without the old. Because the new covenant is the old laws. The only thing that's changed is that instead of, like I said, instead of it being these nations teaching the races, guess what? Since this nation of Israel wanted to follow after, do all the materialistic thing, barter, trade, economics, because a lot of us think that the money, the power, the glory, the economics, running stuff is blessings. Now, if you got Satan, and this is his world until the time of the Messiah shows up, then any blessings that you technically get, and you need to start thinking where you got them from, because 99% of everybody that's living good right now that committing atrocity to get to what they have carry a certain characteristic. They hateful, spiteful, socialistic, and carry some kind of values that is immoral, and that's keeping it funky. Because if there was a God, they'd be eating breakfast, doing this and the third, keeping what they had financially, all right, and living by their means is what I should say, instead of storing in the storehouse. But we don't see that. So I ain't trying to hear that one. So please, please, please understand. You cannot have cereal without any milk. You can't have peanut butter without any jelly. And you can't have Kool-Aid if you ain't got the Kool-Aid with no sugar and all you got is a pitcher of water. So how in the heck you got a new without no old? And I think Yahweh was very clear when it started off with the genealogy, ended with the genealogy, and started right back up with the genealogy. I think Yeshua made it very, very clear when he said, I did not come to get rid of the old, but to fulfill them.